Hi, y'all. You know what time it is. Get into it. I do apologize in advance. I'm a little bit out of it today. I'm alright. I'm safe at home. My energy is just a bit low. I'm really exhausted. But that is neither here nor there. I did not want to miss story time today, considering this is the last chapter of The Castle of Llyr until we get on to the next book, which is the fourth book in the series. So, as I always say, you do not have to watch these videos when they go live. You're more than welcome to watch them in your downtime, nap time, max relax and chillaxing time, in between time, mean time, CP time, break time, study time, anytime you want to hear a highly animated voice, bring you wonderful stories of magic, fantasy, science fiction, adventure, and many, many more in between. Got some green tea here to get my energy up because I'm just kind of out of it today. But don't worry, kids. There are times where, as adults specifically, we have days that we're high energy and others where we are not. So it happens. But no, I don't own the music that you're listening to in the background, which is brought to you by Harps Aboard. Please check her out. She's amazing. An amazing harp player. Harpist, I guess would be the proper term. My apologies. And I enjoy listening to her do covers of certain video game songs and soundtracks or movies and stuff. And anime. I really enjoy listening to that. Anybody knows me well enough. My favorite genre of music is jazz. I love jazz, all of the subgenres of jazz included. Jazz is number one in my life above any other musical genre that I love. Probably the second after that would be music like this, classical music. Then probably after that, in the third position would be R&B. Then there would be neo soul, and then probably hip hop. Then rap, because those are two different categories, and anybody that was born and raised in the 90s knows exactly what I'm talking about as to the differentiation between the two. If you know, you know. Then probably after hip hop and rap, I probably would do country music, the blues, folk music, techno, electronica, and house music. Yes. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get started, okay? Chapter 20, The Pledge. The princess sat up and looked curiously at the companions. Eilonwy, Taran whispered. Do you know us?
Taran of Caer Dallben, said Eilonwy. Only an assistant peakeeper could ask a question like that. Of course I know you. What I don't know is what I'm doing soaking wet and covered with sand on this beach.
Gwydion smiled. The Princess Eilonwy has come back to us. Gurgi shouted with joy, and in that instant Taran, Fflewddur, and Prince Rude began talking all at once. Eilonwy clapped her hands over her ears.
Stop, stop, she cried. You're making my head swim. Listening to you is more confusing than trying to count your fingers and toes at the same time.
The companions forced themselves to be silent while Gwydion quickly told her all that had happened. When he had finished, Eilonwy shook her head.
I can see you had a much more interesting time than I had, she said,
scratching Lion's chin as the immense cat purred with pleasure.
Especially since I don't recall much of it. Too bad that Mag escaped, Eilonwy went on. I wish he were here now. I should have a few things to take up with him. That morning when I was on my way to breakfast, he came looming out of one of the corridors. He told me something very serious had happened and I was to come with him immediately.
If only we could have warned you. Taran began.
Warn me?
Eilonwy replied.
Of Mag? I knew straight off from the very look of him he was up to something.
Taran stared at her. And yet you went with him?
Naturally, said Eilonwy. How else was I going to find out? You're so busy sitting in front of my chamber and threatening to have a guard put around me. I knew there was no use trying to get any sense out of you.
Do not judge him harshly, said Gwydion, smiling. He thought only to protect you. He was under my orders to do so.
Yes, I realize that, said Eilonwy, and I soon began to wish all of you had been with me. By then it was too late. We no sooner got clear of the castle than Mag tied me up and gagged me. That was the worst of it. I couldn't speak a word. But it spoiled his own scheme, she went on. He had indeed waited in the hills until the searching party was far ahead of us. Then he dragged me into the boat. His shins were black and blue for a while to come, I assure you. But I dropped my bauble. Since I was gagged, I couldn't make him understand I wanted it back. But it served him right. Ochren was furious when she saw I didn't have it. She blamed Mag, and I'm surprised she didn't have his head off then. And there, to me, she was very sweet and thoughtful, so I knew right away something disagreeable was to come. After that, Eilonwy continued, Ochren cast a spell over me, and I remember very little, until the bauble was in my hands once more. Then it was very strange. In the light of it, I could see all of you, not with my eyes, really, but with my heart. I knew you wanted me to destroy the spells, and I wanted to as much as you did. Yet it was though there were two of me. One did, and one didn't want to give up the spells. I knew it was my only chance to become an enchantress, and if I gave up my powers then, that would be the end of it, I suppose, she said softly to Taran. I felt a little the way you did long ago in the marshes of Morva when you had to decide to give up Adion's magic brooch. The rest of it wasn't pleasant, Eilonwy's voice faltered. I'd rather not talk about it. She was silent a moment. Now I shall never be an enchantress. There's nothing left for me now except being a girl.
That is more than enough cause for pride, Gwydion said gently. For all you chose to sacrifice, you have kept Ochren from ruling Prydain. We owe more than our lives to you.
I'm glad the Book of Spells burned up, Eilonwy said, but I'm sorry I lost my bauble. By this time it's surely floated far out to sea, she sighed. There's nothing to be done about that, but I shall miss it. As she spoke, Taran glimpsed a flickering movement against the dark gray sky. He leapt to his feet. It was Ka, looming landward at top speed.
The last of our strays, cried
Flooter. Lion's eyes pricked up, her long whiskers twitched, but she made no attempt to lunge for the crow. Indeed, she rose to her haunches and purred fondly at the sight of her former opponent. His feathers bedraggled and pointing every which way, Claw fluttered above Eilonwy. Despite his disreputable appearance, he squawked and snapped his beak with enormous satisfaction.
Bobble! Crack! Bobble!
From his claws, the golden peladrin dropped into Eilonwy's outstretched hands. Gwydion at first had decided the companion should rest until morning, but Prince Rune was eager to return to Dinas Ridnot. There's a great deal to be done, he said. I'm afraid we've let Mag look after things we should have seen to ourselves. There's more to being a prince than I thought. I've learned that from an assistant pigkeeper, he added, clasping Taran's hand, and from all of you. There's still most of Mona to be seen if I'm ever to be king. I'm sure I should see it all, though I hope in a rather different way. So if you don't mind, I should like to set out now. Gurgi had no wish to linger anywhere near Caer Calor, and Flooter could hardly wait to show Lyon her new home in his own realm. Eilonwy insisted she was quite able to travel, and at last Gwydion agreed they would start without delay. He agreed, too, that they would pass by the cavern to see how Gloof fared, but for Taran still held to the promise he had made to help the wretched giant. The ragged band made ready to leave the coast. Ochren, finally consenting to voyage to Caer Dallben, walked slowly, withdrawn into her own thoughts, while Lyon frisked beside the barn and Caw sported overhead. Eilonwy had gone for a moment to the edge of the surf, Taran following her as soon as she watched the dancing waves.
I thought I should have had a last look at Caer Calor,
Eilonwy said,
just to remember where it was, or rather where it isn't. I am sorry in a way that it's gone. Outside of Caer Dallben, it was the only home I had.
Once you're safe at Dinas Ridnot, Taran said, I shall stay no longer on Mona. I had hoped after all you'd been through, though, that you'd come back with us. But Gwydion is sure that Dallben meant for you to stay here. I suppose he's right. I can hear Dallben now. Being rescued has nothing to do with being educated. Eilonwy said nothing for a while. Then she turned to Taran.
One thing more I remembered at Caer Calor. Dallben saying that there was a time when we must be more than what we are. Can it be true that being a young lady is more important than being an enchantress? Perhaps that's what he meant. I shall have to find out for myself. So if I must learn to be a young lady, whatever that may be, that's any different from what I am, Eilonwy continued, then I shall try to learn twice as fast as those silly geese at Dinas Ridnot, and be home twice as soon, for Caer Dallben is my only real home now. Why, what's this? Eilonwy cried suddenly. The sea has given us a gift. She knelt from the foaming surf, drew a battered object, and stripped away the trailing seaweed. Taran saw an ancient battle horn bound in silver with a silver mouthpiece. Eilonwy turned it over in her hands and looked carefully at it. She smiled sadly. It's all that's left of Caer Calor. What use it may be, I don't know, and never shall. But if you promise not to forget me until we meet again, I promise not to forget you, and this shall be my pledge. I promise gladly, Taran said. He hesitated. But what pledge have I to give you? I have none other than my word. The word of an assistant peacekeeper, said Eilonwy. That shall do very well indeed. Here, take it. Giving gifts is much nicer than saying farewell. And yet, Taran answered, we must say farewell. You know that King Rudlam and Queen Tellyria mean to betroth you to Prince Rune. Indeed, exclaimed Eilonwy. Well, I assure you, they shall do no such thing. There's limits to having people make up your mind for you. Rune has certainly improved. I think this journey was the best thing that ever happened to him, and some day he might even make a respectable king. But as far as being betrothed... She stopped suddenly and looked at Taran. Do you seriously think for a moment I would ever... Taran of Caer Dallben, she cried angrily, her eyes flashing. I'm not speaking to you. At least, Eilonwy added quickly, not for a while.
And that is the end of the Castle of Llyr. And next time we meet, we will begin a story surrounded about Taran specifically. Taran the Wanderer. Or Taran Wanderer in this case. Taran has to go on his own journey. And I'm just going to fair warn you, this particular installment is a bit more serious. It still has humor and is very much family friendly in my opinion, but it explores Taran's origins, his parentage, where he comes from, and who he comes from. And so we're going to get a good glimpse of what that's like next time we meet. As always, I will see you all next time, y'all. Bye-bye.